All right, we are live. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Tori, and today we are going to have a lovely, relaxed hangout, Motley crew. I think it's number 22, with my good friend and fellow booktuber, Chris Navo. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Tori. This is
Absolutely.
Love these little Motley chat talks you have.
I love them too, and it's always fun. I mean, everybody that I have on a Motley crew chat, I feel like if they weren't a friend coming in, I feel like they're my friend leaving. But it is always fun to have somebody on that's like a friend that I've known for a while, and we can just have a nice chat and talk about series we're both reading. And
yep, absolutely.
Hey, Pete. Chris, I saw Darian here a second ago. Yes, Pete showed up an hour early, so he was ready for this conversation.
Pete, I freaked out because I always get time zones wrong too. So I was actually here an hour early too.
I felt so bad. So I had, when we had Alec Hudson on last night, so he lives in Shanghai, which is 13 hours ahead of me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we figured it all out and we had it all set and it was great. And then poor Alec was ready to get in the chat an hour before we were. And I had sent him an email and was like, hey, so we're ready to see you in about an hour. And he was like, oh, I was just about to jump in. And we could not figure out for a little bit like where we'd gone wrong. And then I remembered we have daylight savings time. He does not. So when we scheduled it, it was before daylight savings happened, and then it messed us all up. So it's just, you just kind of hope it works.
Yeah. And where I work, I always have to deal with time zones too. So I would think I would get a grasp of it. I just never do. So
I'm still, with all of the different time zones that I've worked with doing the live streams and stuff, I still am panicked every time, just hoping that I got it right.
Everybody shows up and
yeah. Yep. Hi, Kay.
Hey, Kay.
Be on Kay's channel tomorrow evening. Very excited about that.
We'll be there for that.
Hey, Zin. Got some barbarians in the house this evening.
Team.
Yeah, Daniel.
Hey, Daniel.
Dairy. Yeah, honestly, Zin, it's just kind of a barbarian reunion today. I'm here for it. Speaking of, there's Brian.
Brian's fantastic new booktube channel.
I would love if everyone could just have Olive Garden every time we did Motley crew chats. That would be great.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
You guys don't have to worry about garlic breath.
No, you can't smell anything. You just see the lovely food. It's wonderful. Yes, for everybody who doesn't know this already and definitely needs to go subscribe, Brian just started his brand new YouTube channel and is just coming out the gates strong. Like I've seen a couple of his videos and it's already awesome. You got the 2022 and forward crowd of booktubers. You guys are all making us look bad over here. Like you just came out, you have perfect lighting and the bookshelves.
But you guys led the way. It's like, oh man, we gotta bring our game to these seasoned pros over here.
I keep telling Sarah when we chat about it, I'm like, I need to get one of those like RGB lights and just make everything like purple or something. Right now it's just white shelves, white walls, white.
So, hey, it works. Fine. We show up.
We show up. Yep. Hey, Casey.
Hey, Casey.
So I don't have a plan for tonight because Chris and I think so we met, I think, during the Readathon in March. Was that the first time we'd really talked at all?
It was like was it March? I thought it was April. It was the beginning of because I remember it was like the same time I started my channel and I thought, oh, this is a good thing. I just jumped right into the Readathon. And that was it. You're our captain, our fearless leader. And then we just had a fun chat with the whole crew that was part of that team. We just had a very good communication. I think I wasn't really paying any attention to any other Discord. It was just what's going on in the barbarian chats today.
That was so much fun. It was really cool. I think Readathons are really fun, but they're especially fun, I think, when you can really build kind of a little community family out of your team. And I was so happy that we really seemed to achieve such a tight-knit group in such a short amount of time. And a lot of us have just kind of stayed in contact, and we all kind of show up on each other's channels and hang out. And so
I did another one in July. One. And that one was, you can choose the team. You were kind of just random placed. I had a lot of Beanie Barbarians in there, and I think that's kind of what made us so, really pushed us over, because we already knew each other for the most part. We had some new faces, a lot of authors, just
kind of gathered them in,
booktubers, and it's like, hey, this is well, we still had our like Beanie Barbarian / Tsunami Sea Dogs, and we kind of just blended it together.
Yep. Well, yeah, and so I mean, not to brag or anything, but we have 2 winning captains on the chat this evening for the Keymark Readathons, which is pretty cool. So you carried the torch well.
And again, it was now we got to just see who's that third.
Yep.
Keep it
so
going.
If any of the other Beanie Barbarians want to take a shot at captaining a Readathon, I
was honored to be asked to be a captain, but it was exhausting. It's work, because
it is a lot of work.
I had so many amazing readers on my team, and that's a bonus for score wise, and how many amazing reads were getting read, because it was during the Spiffbo highlight time when everybody was reading Spiffbo books. So that was really cool. We were all like, oh, I want to read that now, and all that kind of thing. But it is work. You have to look up every review, and you have to just tally up points. And thankfully, I had my spouse put together an Excel spreadsheet. And
the spreadsheet. Oh man, it is a lot of work. It is, and I think what makes it really worth it is, like you said, having the team that really becomes like a little tight-knit community. That makes it so much easier to put in all the work.
I definitely don't regret it, but it was a little bit of a burnout after that. But it was so
for fun. Sure. Yeah, I had the same thing. Yeah, Derry, a fellow captain from my round of the Readathon, who was amazing. Bex and Daniel were both in your team from that. I forgot about that. I was trying to remember like who was in what team. Ryan was on the Spelunkers. Nice. Tropic. I didn't know the team names from yours except for yours.
It was hot. That was
awesome.
The winning. We got to vote on the winning name of a group, and I think that one. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That was a really killer name. That was hilarious.
Yeah, Derry, you were an absolute joy to co-captain with. That was great fun. Hey, Ryan. Oh, hey, Ryan. Thiago has graced us. Hey, Thiago. Bibliotheory, another fairly new booktube channel that I was just checking out earlier today. You guys should all go check it out. Is he?
He's got to correct me if I'm wrong. I think I only discovered him maybe a month ago, but I think he can let us know. But I think he's been around a little bit. I think he's new too, but
okay.
But I only discovered him maybe like a month or two ago. And
new in terms of like this year, maybe. You'll have to let us know when you started, because
he's got some great content. You got
for sure. Yeah, I watched a couple of videos today and I was very impressed. Bex is here. Hi, Britton. Yeah. I wouldn't have known any different, probably. Another barbarian. Hey, Matt.
Yep, Matt. Hey.
Yeah, we should revisit that, Britain, for sure. Double check YouTube and the upcoming stream. Yeah, there's so many live streams going on. So for Chris, when you watch BookTube, and I know once you become a BookTuber, it's hard to watch other people's content as much because you're so busy trying to make your own. But what kind of BookTube content do you find yourself gravitating toward the most?
So I could probably tell you what I don't, and I think this is odd for a fellow booktuber.
Okay.
I don't tend to watch review books, only because I'm easily influenced by people, even if it's a non-spoiler review. I mean, there's still that part of me that will think that when I read it, which is the irony is I do reviews in my videos. So it's like, it's kind of hit and miss, but I try to add in, especially lately, I try to add in other things beside a review. I'll add in something like what I'm reading next or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those videos, I'll put them on watch later, especially if it's a book I really want to know their thoughts on how it affected me. So I will go back to them. It's not like I'll never watch a review video, but it's just I'm too easily influenced, and I'll have like somebody's opinion in the back of my head. A big example of that would have been Brandon Sanderson, Mistborn. I think I watched so many of the videos, and I guess it didn't hit me the way I wanted it to.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I had all this influence and all this hype built in my head. And so I just want to go into a book like totally blind. And I think having that immersion experience is more rewarding to me. And then I can watch the video to see what somebody thinks about a book. But I usually enjoy definitely author interviews. I think those are probably the biggest thing I watch. Any kind of discussions, I do love the live discussions. I think those are always my go-to. I always try to make plans to be there live. Doesn't always, of course, work that way. It depends what's going on. But those are the ones I really gravitate to. And and because this is why I went into BookTube, is the immersion experience with discussing things. Sub counts and analytics are fine. I mean, we watch them. I mean, that's part of our brand. But the rewarding part is this right here, what we're doing right now. This is the rewarding part to me. And the thing I look more forward to when I post a video is the comment section. What's 100%. In the comment? I want to see my channel grow, but I'm more into the interactions, building that community, whether it's fellow booktubers, general viewers, or authors, further along the way. I want to get my book out eventually, so connecting with authors too. So, all this goes hand in hand, and I think that's the more rewarding part to me.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. I think it's always something when I talk to new booktubers that I really try to encourage them to like start by making relationships and just see where it goes from there. Like your channel is going to be, the sub counts and the views are going to go like this, and there's going to be ups and downs, and there's the moments where like you can't figure out what the algorithm is doing to you for a bit. Yeah. But really,
it's angry with me right now because I took a 2-month break in August and September, so it's angry with me right now. But I don't care. I had to find a different approach to the channel. So and I wanted it to be. I think I was getting overwhelmed, and I needed it to get back to being fun and enjoyable. So
well, and content creating it's a very, depending on the approach that you take, it's a ton of work. I mean, figuring out what you want to say, and then saying it, and then editing it, and then doing the thumbnails, and then plastering it wherever you're marketing it, if at all, and then answering comments, and it's all like, you have your favorite parts of that process, obviously, and for me, the comments are a big favorite as well, because I love getting a chance to plug back into the community. I'm actually terrified of getting to a point where I can't keep up with the comments anymore. That's terrifying to me.
Yeah. I got to hand it to, I think there's a few out there, some of the big ones that just get every one of them, and I'm just like,
how?
How? I'll try to get to them within maybe the same couple days, and I don't get a lot all the time, and I am like, God, how do large channels do this? But
I know
that's definitely a mission for me too. Is I would do my best to answer them.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, at least with a thumbs up or the little love button emoji thing. But
yep,
I saw it.
Yep, I promise I read your comment. Yeah, Books with Nate says, totally agree. A simple TBR video takes a few hours, all things considered, for me. Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
It takes time. It's funny because you know, I've been on BookTube since January 1st, 2020, but it wasn't really until June of 2022 that I consider this part of my BookTube career to have really started, because I was in the wrong, I had the wrong audience, and I was in the wrong community, and I felt like I was floundering, and I wasn't really finding my people. And I just kind of felt like, I wasn't fitting in with a lot of the, you know, YA fantasy and YA romance readers. And that's where I started, because I didn't know as much about this community now. And I'm so glad that I came back into the right group of people and found people that were reading the same books that I was interested in reading. So
yeah, it's definitely I'm glad. Thank you. It's I still struggle with the direct camera look. My dyslexia kicks in all the time. It's a lot of fumbling. It's a lot of recording, and
backing up, saying it again.
Yep. Save it for the gag reel. This was pretty funny.
Exactly. I love your blooper reels so much. They're quite fabulous.
I figured it's either keep it in and just be a little too much distracting to where you can't really watch the video, or, you know, just stick it into the end and make fun of yourself kind of thing. But exactly. and that's the thing. It's like, even with those cuts, I'm still like, I do watch my video once after it's published. I want to see it like I sit with my spouse and we watch our video like the day after. And every time I'm like, God, how many times are you going to say in this, and you can cut and then there's the I'm so excited about this book, and it's like my answer to every TBR book. I'm so excited to read this.
So excited.
And and it's like, all right, Chris, I said that about 10 times in 10 minutes.
Mine is I can't wait to read this. I say that all the time. I think there was one video quite a ways back on my channel, and I cannot for the life of me remember which one it is, but I actually, in editing, went back and kind of did a counter for how many times I said the word really, and did like a counter through the video, because I was saying it so much. Yeah, this book was really interesting. See, in Minnesota, that would be the way that you would say you weren't really sure you liked something, but still be nice about it.
I think I say that with,
it's interesting.
It was something, you know.
Yeah, it's a book that exists. It's a book that it happened.
Yeah, I don't think I try to. What I try to do is I try to be as positive as I can. I want to present material that appealed to me first, and then things that didn't work out for me. But I don't think I've ever really said, I would probably go as far as say this didn't work for me, kind of thing. You know, I know a lot of booktubers get a lot of, especially the big ones, will get a lot of that's when they start getting the argumentative, like people in the chat you don't really want to see, but I try to, you have to just kind of keep it general or neutral as possible, and that's kind of just my approach.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and I think too, I've said this before, but I think there's definitely ways to be honest and transparent about things that you didn't jive with without being really negative and aggressive about it. I mean, I don't see the point in that. There's a lot of negativity in the world to begin with. And like, I can dislike something and say, hey guys, this really didn't work for me because of these things, but here's why that's probably the same reason why somebody else would love it. So
absolutely.
Yeah, let's see. Everybody's been chatting away in the comments. Yeah, Derry, you are definitely the cool aunt of this community, 100%. There you go. You're going to get dad jokes from Chiago.
Nice.
Live streams are fun. So you've done some live streams now, Chris. How are you liking live streams?
This is what I like to do too. I love live streams. I think I'm trying to look back at my very first one. I think it was a group one. It was Steve Talks Books, and it was
sure.
with, what's the author's name? Joshua Edwards. Author Joshua Edwards, and then another
Ocean of Others.
Yeah, and then another female Spiffbo author, and I feel so bad I forget her name, but in that and that was like 2 weeks into my channel, and I was like, really, are you really what? And I'm like, okay, sure. But it was a lot of fun talking about the writing process, and because they're of course established authors, I'm working on my WIP right now, so it was cool to get that whole thing. And Steve was a great commenter. I chatted with Britton who's in the comments right now as well. I had a little one-on-one with him, and same thing here. We just kind of just talked. Nothing was like we didn't plan anything or anything. It was just like a great chat. Then of course the sprints and then recently me and Laura from Fantasy Awash started doing TV shows. We did the Wheel of Time season 1 and 2 discussion. Lots of hot takes because we came into the series at different points in our lives, and so we have different views on this series. Series. So, and then it's fun just to see what worked for us on the show and what didn't. And we're gonna do it again because we had such a good time. We're gonna do it with One Piece.
I saw that. I'm excited.
And then we're gonna do. We're probably gonna do Avatar when that comes out.
Ooh, okay, very cool. Yeah, I saw you guys were gonna do One Piece, and I was really excited about that because I also have zero past history with the anime or the manga or anything. And Ben and I watched the show probably a month ago, I would say now. And yeah, I had a really good time with it. So I'm looking forward to watching you guys' reactions and joining the discussion on that because I have thoughts.
yeah, we love it. That's the thing. We love keeping it open. We love seeing what everybody else thought. The Wheel of Time discussions were totally different because we read the books, or we read up to, or at least Laura read up to what was shown on the TV show, or roughly shown on the TV show. But and this is totally going in blind, so we're just going on based on this Netflix series. So I watched it all the way through already, but I'm gonna catch the first episode again prior to the thing, start taking my notes down. But yeah,
do you have a favorite character?
Zora.
Yeah, same. Which I feel like it's so.
I mean, that's
everybody.
No question.
I feel like everybody I say that to is like, well, yeah, obviously, because that's like the most basic answer ever. But in my defense, if you look at my history of favorite characters and things, like that's kind of the archetype always.
Yeah, it is very on brand for you. Yeah,
for sure.
Your love for,
but I do love Luffy a lot.
Yeah.
Like, usually I can't stand the main character of a lot of things, and I fell so hard for Luffy very quickly, which I was excited about.
I mean, sneak peek into Sunday, but I think I like his like happy-go-lucky attitude, and I think it's just think it's what draws people to him. You can see the reluctance, of course, when he first meets his little crew, but they are still kind of drawn to him. They don't know it yet. And I think a lot of it is just that it's not arrogance. It's just this happy-go-lucky, I'm going to do this, and this is what I'm going to do. And you can join me. I would love to have you, kind of thing. And
there's kind of a endearing perseverance that I think that he has that's really cool. And what I like too is it seems like the people around him that are have been very jaded by life suddenly have somebody who believes in them, which is like, I think something that they all desperately need. So that's very cool. So sneak peek for Sunday. Derry says, finding my people at almost 50 years old has been an absolute lifesaver. I'm so happy that you're in the community, Derry. We love you.
Same here, Derry. Yeah.
Me too, Pete. For what it's worth, both you guys look very comfortable on camera. It's working.
Yeah, just don't look, I guess, directly at the camera. See, I look at you, or I just kind of look over at the audience, comments. That way, if I don't look at the camera, I'm not going,
Oh man, I don't know about you, but whenever I'm editing and I hit pause, like it's a very humbling experience to see your face in the pauses during the videos, and you're just like, oh goodness, I hope nobody else pauses on this video.
I know. I'm like, God, look at the bags under my eyes.
Well, and I know I've joked about this with Alan before, because Alan, you know, always makes fun of those of us who do the, you know, thumbnails.
Yeah.
But I think it's so funny because I'm like, Alan, like, you don't understand. He's like, just take something from your video still shots. And I'm like, have you seen my skills? I'm like, you know, like the whole time.
I have to separately film my screenshots.
I do too.
Film my screenshots.
Yep, I do too.
There's
then
never
at least I know my eyes are open and I don't have, like, you know, I don't look like I'm half asleep. Chris, you're a pleasure to have around.
Aw. Likewise, Pete.
Ryan, we love when you show up in the comments. You know what? Being on camera, I think it's definitely an acquired taste, because you're an introvert, I would assume.
I'm an introvert. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like if we met in public, you would have to probably do all the talking. I would maybe not now.
No
maybe
problem.
if I met you in person now, I think it would go a little better. But I met Bookborn and Zach Argyle in person. And Bookborn was the first fellow booktuber I met in person. And right after the panel, she must have saw me in the audience area, because she came right up to me and I'm like, oh God, please don't freak out. And I always have my spouse as a buffer because they're extroverted and like, take it away, you know?
Armor.
But I think because, and a lot of this has to do with, I think, my job and all that. We've gotten used to Zoom and cameras and all that. So in interaction, and I think, all right, I have a camera, maybe I should do something with it. I feel comfortable when I'm at work and I'm talking about things I know. So, and I don't have the issues that I have when I'm talking about things that I get passionate about.
Yeah.
So maybe I can do this on camera, and maybe I can, you know, it's not so hard, you know, and then go from there.
Yeah, I'm definitely an extrovert, but I'm like an extrovert that I was an ambivert for a really long time, and as I've gotten older, I've kind of tipped farther to the extrovert side, but I'm still like, I saw Thiago's comment, what do you call an introvert that becomes a bit more of an extrovert when they know the person they're talking to? I would say that that's a selective extrovert. Like, you have to be with people that you're comfortable with, and then then you feel more comfortable kind of showing your personality, I would assume, from my experience. A friendstrovert, I like that, Bex.
I was very sociable when I was younger in high school.
Yeah.
I would actually be like kind of like a floater, like all the tables from like the cafeteria. Like I actually had some cool friends, and then I had the dark goth kid friends, and then I would just intermingle depending on my mood, and I was just lucky that way. And I was just very talkative, you know. I was always, even my teachers were like, God, you need to shut up, Chris, you know, kind of thing. And I don't know what happened. I don't know where down the line I just kind of like went into a reclusive cell, because it was before COVID and all that. But
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just kind of grew into being just tired of talking.
You know, that's fair.
I'm in the wrong business now.
Right. Then you started a YouTube channel, and now you
then I started
as a side gig. Yeah, I saw that Book That Wouldn't Burn is on Goodreads Awards.
I have to read that still.
I do too. I have it.
I have it too.
Cue Thiago in the comments telling us all to read it. The need to be more objective about a book when it comes to reviews is why I'm happy to leave that to other channels. I try to be really objective, but I'm also I've gotten less afraid of ruffling feathers, in the sense that I'm more willing to just be very upfront about, hey, I didn't like this about the book. and here's the things that like didn't work for me, because I feel like I'm not presenting that in a way that I'm trying to like tear the book down or the author down, or I'm just saying this didn't work. This is why. You might like it, you know?
Yeah.
Let's see. So since starting Booktube, one of my questions for you is, since starting Booktube, what are some of the books that you have really enjoyed that you've read because of the community?
Good question. I would honestly say prior to Booktube, I did not read a lot of self-pub books or indie authors, and I don't know why that is. I think I had that stigma that they weren't edited correctly, and I've always gone to like cons and picked up self-pub books to support them. And then bring them home, and I'm like, I can't get past the first paragraphs because it's like not edited or something on those lines. And I think that just kind of sticks with you. And but I wanted to change that like prior to starting my channel, because I wanted my channel to focus a lot on self-pub, because there's channels that are better and bigger than me that can do the other stuff, like the Brandon Sanderson stuff, the Robin Hobb stuff. And so I wanted to try a little something different. And I think like Rob J. Hayes comes to mind immediately. I think even Evan Winter. I think he's now trad pub, but he started off self pub. And I think his books are underrated too. Especially the second one, it was just like, wow, it was just mind blown by that, the writing and just the world that he created. I have to look now because
I know. It was funny that you brought him up, because I literally have those sitting right next to my chair now.
I don't know, Tori. I really do think you'll like them. I really do.
I read the first one, I think, even before I had found this community when I was on Booktube. I want to say in like 2020 or 2021, maybe. And that's one of the books that for some, I don't know. Well, the second one hadn't come out yet. And I think by the time it did, I was so ingrained in other series and I was reading other things that I just never picked up book 2, and I need to.
Yeah. I'm finding people are saying, and I had somebody tell me, they go, you're enjoying self-pub books more than you're enjoying your tribe pub books. Like I didn't have the best review for the first Mistborn book. I did not have the best review for the first book in Dresden. That was recent. But I'm like thrilled. I was thrilled with, not to blow smoke up your butt, but I was thrilled. I was thrilled with Phase. It left an impact. I was. Thank you. And it also opened my mind a little bit to maybe reading a little more YA as well. Too. So see new experiences from just the Booktube. I don't know if I would have picked up your book if I didn't know you, or if I didn't know it was like young adult. Maybe I would have, but who knows? Yeah. But there's I don't know. I just think that I find more enjoyment from self-pub. I think because self-pub just brings a little more uniqueness, something I haven't read before. Sadir Samir's The Crew was just so bizarre, so over the top, but I enjoyed it. I think the first self-pub I read for the channel was Joao Silva's Seeds of War.
I have to read that.
I loved his characters. He did such great character work there. And these were like just different experiences I haven't read in any kind of fantasy before. And there are my tropes that I love. I love a lot of the classic things you see in like a lot of the trad pub books, but I feel like they're not these trad pubs, even if these self-pub people are trying to get trad pubbed, I think they're not giving them a chance because I think they're afraid that these are too unique of experience and it's not in the market or something like that.
Yep.
And it's just bizarre to me.
Yeah, it is. Well, and I think it's going to be really interesting, I think, in the next 5 and especially 10 years here to see how I think there's going to be a lot of equalization between the two industries in terms of trad versus indie. And I hate saying it like that because I don't want it to be a trad versus indie thing. My goal has always been let people publish the way that works best for them, and we can all come together on the common ground that we love writing and we love fantasy, and let's see what both options have to offer, and just like enjoy the good stories that come out of both, because I have favorites in both trad and self-pub. So
oh, absolutely. I mean, Red Rising, fantastic. Loving Malazan.
Yep.
Loving Malazan. Yeah, there's a few. Joe Abercrombie, I need to get to his Age of Madness series. I'm planning that for 2024. So
nice.
But I love the first of all, so big part. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of trad pub that I still need to read, and I'll continue to keep exploring self pub as well too. I think we're coming in, you and with your new book Bloodstones, you're coming in, I just think, at a good time in this type of venue and this type of market. I just think people are realizing that that these books have quality, and more so than a lot of trad, to me, honestly.
Yeah, well, I think it's because in a lot of from different stories that I've heard on both sides of the fence, I think oftentimes authors that are brought into the trad pub space are kind of boxed into specific marketable storytelling, and what the company or the publisher wants at that moment. Say, okay, we want this type of a story with this kind of a vibe to it. Can you write that? Or can you change? Like, I've heard of authors being told they need to change the story they pitched to fit a certain marketable trend. And with indie, the beautiful part about that is there will always be we will always be writing in every subgenre of fantasy. And there will always be, like, if you feel like an epic fantasy, guess what? It's trending in self-pub because everybody's still writing it. And I think indie largely maybe was at least a good chunk responsible for bringing that epic fantasy vibe back into the industry as a whole in the last few years, which I'm not mad about.
Oh, no, not at all.
Everybody's been...
No, Pete, Tori did not pay me to say Red Rising.
Says Pete, who's also a giant Red Rising fan. Hey, Laura.
Hey.
Let's see. Got to support my booktube bestie. Yep, there it is. I said it was coming. We have to read the book that wouldn't burn right now. Sometimes I think you're Mark Lawrence in disguise.
Yeah.
And
that was Tiago was another one. That was one of my first reads for... Actually, I read them before I started my channel. I have...
Just doing the Vanna White over here.
Oh, here, let me get book 2.
Nice. Look at that. I love how with our community, like, so many of the live streams just turn into us reaching behind and grabbing books. Look, I have that.
I was like, I forget this is cash. It's like I'm looking at my bookshelf, while we're talking. Because I know what I read, but then I have to look. I'm like, let me wait. What am I talking about here again?
Yeah, I was like, wait, do I have that? Yes, I have that. Everybody, oh my goodness. Will Chris be doing a deep dive? I actually have, if I can get it finished and edited tonight, I actually have a video on a topic that somehow includes Sarah J. Maas coming out tomorrow. So
Brian, if I just want a boost of subs, maybe I'll do a Sarah J. Maas video.
It's so funny because I feel like
I can't say anything. I haven't read it. I can't. I have. Like I said, even her.
I can say anything.
I can't say anything. All right, then I'll let you say it. I will say this: I'm tired of her taking over the fantasy section of my Barnes and Nobles. She's got like 5 end caps and 3 display tables worth of her books, and then like the hardback section is like 2 rows of Sarah J. Maas, and then I had to make the employee go in the back room for my latest Daniel Abraham book, Blade of Dream, which they only had 2 copies of. I said, you have 2 I wanted to say, you guys only have 2 copies of Blade of Dream, not even on the shelf, but thank God you have Sarah J. Maas available in truckloads.
Which I feel bad because I know, like, I think a lot of people who read, you know, epic fantasy and a lot of the, you know, our type of books kind of can butt heads with people that read romantasy a lot, because it's not that it's not that I look down on the genre at all. And that's something that I really want to reiterate, because, and I reiterate that again tomorrow in my video. To me, it's like exactly what you said. When I can't get a copy of only one Malazan book in my Barnes and Noble, and it's like the mass market paperback, but like you said, there's like 2 bookcases of A Court of Thorns and Roses and Sarah and all of the other books, you know, from her series. And it's like, okay, I understand that this sells really well, and I have, you know, a lot of thoughts on why that is. But it is frustrating when it takes over, you know, what I consider to be a more of a larger representation of what the fantasy genre is. So I've read all 3 of the first ones. Derry, yeah, I do remember you love the Dresden series. I forgot about that.
I'm not giving up, Derry. I am going to read a couple more books just to confirm, you know, the first one it was good. It was a good detective story in there. And I'll say that right away. There was a great detective story to it. I like the mythical elements to it. I was a big fan of the Iron Druid Chronicles by Kevin Hearn. It has a very similar thing. I think Jim Butcher did write his first, I believe, but I enjoyed it. So I'm definitely going to keep it up, give it a couple more books just to confirm.
Yeah.
Sure.
Chris is another self-pub enthusiast.
Chris and I are going to read some self-pub, and coming up here, I'm going to read Genghis Khan series, Khan Ingleton.
Yay! I love those. I say those. I've only read the first one, but yeah, I loved that book, the first one. It was amazing.
Hey, Robert.
Let's see. Laura wants to know, Chris, what is your favorite current trope you feel like you can't get enough of?
Current trope. I like. I don't know. I'm a sucker for classical tropes. So, give me a naive young protagonist. Now, as older I do like older protagonists primarily, but I still kind of like that naive character exploring the world, because we're exploring the world too. So I think it just works well. You just have to change it up out of the stereotypes that we see a lot in, especially classical fantasy. You know, mix it up a little bit. I'm a sucker for any kind of mythical beast. So, so you put a dragon in it, Thiago and his griffins, and just I love any kind of like mythical beasts like that, such things like that sort. There's I can go on. I mean, that's why I read fantasy. There's so many aspects to it. Right now, I'm just loving this Malazan journey that's just so complex, that has like the Motley crew, of course, is probably always going to be the top favorite.
I can't stand it.
I need to read Kings of the Wild. I was meant to read it like a couple months ago, and I never got to it, and I've been wanting to read that. I heard it's like...
That is an excellent Motley crew.
Everyone, even my non-bookish friends, are telling me that it's probably going to be a book I should read. And it's tough to pick a favorite for sure, because some of your favorites could be done wrong, and you know some of your not so favorites can become your new favorites because it was presented really well. So
Zach Argyle says, Chris, can you please convince Tori to move to Seattle?
I'm trying to get a couple of people, Zach. I'm trying to get Laura from Fantasy Awash, of course, and Josh, her husband. So I'm trying to get them. I mean, she and Bookborn are kind of little buddies, so it's like, well, now you got to move here. You know?
Yeah, I would love to. I'm actually kind of tentatively making plans to come out to the big WorldCon in 2025. So I am very excited to get to meet everybody that I know over there. It's going to be great fun. Yeah, Brian's fellow Minnesotan over here. See, the problem, Zach, is that I'm an 8th generation Southeast Minnesotan. Like, my family does not leave. Like, I have roots in the ground under my house. So that's the tough part. But I definitely want to come out and visit you guys for WorldCon because I think that would be an absolute blast. I saw a comment from I had to.
Yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, for context. So I love this. I think it's hilarious. And Chris, honestly makes me feel so much better because I felt really bad. Laura actually, hilariously, because she noticed it. So I called her out in a live stream when she was in the chat. And it's one of those things where when people name their channels, not their name, I always I'm like, I don't know what their name is. And that makes me feel like I don't know what to say and what to call them, you know? And so I called her Lauren because I was so sure that I'd heard that it was Lauren, and she was very nice about it and said, it's actually Laura. So yeah, so that made me feel better. But in the review of, was it Phased? Yep. Yeah, the Phased review. You had a blooper at the end where you introduced me as Veronica Tekken, which is not the worst thing I've ever been called in my life, so don't worry about it. But Veronica yeah, it was funny. Veronica Tekken. I'm gonna put that on my.
At least I caught it. It could have been like I was just talking, and then it's like I kept it in there accidentally, and I'm just like very straight faced about it. And
it's I had one person who watched all of my First Law vlogs, and I didn't catch until the third one that I was saying Abercrombie instead of Abercrombie, and this person
I do that once in a while
too, like multiple times over my vlogs was like, it's Abercrombie. Sorry.
Yeah. I think for the longest I was calling him Abercrombie, like Abercrombie and Fitch kind of thing.
Yeah, right. Love you said that, Tori. Trad is so limited by their own systems. There's no intention to not publish good stuff, only limited resources. Yeah, I think that's very fair, Derry. Thanks, Thiago. Trad and indie are transforming so much every year, so there's no telling what will be even in 5 years from now. Totally agree. Both sides fusing together are going to be unrecognizable. I certainly feel like that's the direction we're heading for sure. Hob getting 9 books into a series, then being told that she needs to split her next books and pad the YA aspects. No one is immune. Yeah. Don't tell the queen of fantasy to do anything. Just leave her alone to write her books.
I'll tell you, I don't get starstruck, but when I saw her, I was just
I bet.
It's
Robin Hobb. Yeah.
Can you sign my book, please? I guess
you're so cool.
She was so casual and so relaxed.
Oh yeah, she seems like a super nice person. Totally irrelevant, but Christopher, I agree. Your writing style is amazing.
So all of this cost actually, like, I think about $50, like if that. I think
going to Amazon now. Just kidding.
It's just 2 LGB. What? No, not LGB. RGB lights. And,
yep.
And then I do have one like I forget the official name of the light that's on your face. But
I have a ring light that is like up into the side, and that's it. My bedroom light is very yellow, and I need to replace it because it's not very helpful.
Yeah. I didn't really have to get a lot. I think people, think I went like all in, like hardcore with my equipment, but I already had the camera, the lights, like I said, were cheap. The only thing I really invested in, because I thought it was important, was the microphone. I thought the microphone was probably the most important, getting the sound, especially for how soft and low my voice can be. I wanted to make sure that I had something that could project that. So key light. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah. Tori doesn't want to trade severe cold for, I have so much Nordic blood in me, Zen. I don't know what I would do with temperate climates. Let's see. Oh my goodness, you guys. I just gotta say, I love these chats where I can't keep up with the comments because I just love that they're having conversations and hanging out and having.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to keep up.
Yeah, absolutely. It could have nothing to do with what we're talking about, but
right?
Hey, everyone's bonding. That's the important part.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, Matt.
My wife started A Court of Thorns and Roses and she burned through it last month. She's finally reading fantasy. Awesome. I'm glad she's enjoying it.
Your turn now, Nate. Are you going to have it on your channel?
Yeah, there you go. All of her table, not in the fantasy. Interesting. I do think it probably varies by location for sure. Like I've seen pictures of other Barnes and Nobles in different part of the country, and it definitely seems like it's regional, like what's, put out on the tables and stuff.
Yeah. And I get it. I mean, especially brick and mortar stores struggle for sales. I think they're doing better than they were, but you got to put out what sells, and unfortunately, that's what sells. So get out 50 tables and put it all out there.
Right. Derry, I'll readily admit to reading romantasy. I couldn't get through Akhtar. That's the thing. Like I can think of books right now off the top of my head that have really great romance plot lines in them that I loved. Akhtar's not one of them. Yes, absolutely. Why it's important to support indie.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's the thing, Brian. Like I go into my Barnes and Noble and they'll have like book 4 of the series. And I'm like,
oh yeah, they never have book 1 of it.
How is that helpful? Yeah, this is actually kind of the core of my video tomorrow, Daniel. It's just a different genre and it takes up space that would otherwise be our genre. Nothing against romance readers, but it's typically not the same as epic fantasy at all. And that's, I think, one of the things that I mentioned, spoiler, in the video tomorrow is that I think the delineation between subgenres is incredibly important when you're recommending books to readers who are looking to get into something like epic fantasy. And how that ladder of progression goes in terms of here's what you start with and here's where, like, what series you can get into from that. So yeah, I scripted it and everything, and I spent like, and now that all the Goodreads stuff is going on, I'm like, oh man, like this is going to be even more of a hot button topic because of the Goodreads stuff going on right now. That I scripted it long before that came out, but it's going to be going to be interesting. But I tried to just be as objective as possible about it because I'm not here to rain on anybody's parade.
Absolutely.
But let's see. Hi, Rachel. Thanks for joining us. I'm here for a Booktube Acres, Bex. I think that sounds great. So I always hesitate to talk about this because I know that people will think it's really funny to tease me and call me Vicky. I actually really don't like that nickname for myself. I know some other people that are Vickies who are lovely people. But personally, the only person I ever allowed to call me Vicky was my great aunt Margaret. So Vicky, I'm not a Vicky. Like, I'm just not. Tori is, I've always been Tori. I don't even, like, my full formal name is Victoria, obviously, but I don't go by that ever either because I'm like, sounds like very sophisticated and ladylike, and that's just not me. So
funny story on my name. It's so it is Christopher, and then of course my really long name. My last name is not Navo; it's
Navashinsky.
And so
I got it right.
But yeah, good job. And whenever it's listed on something, the R for some reason on Christopher always gets cut off. So I get called Christoph a lot because people assume I'm Christoph because the R is always cut off, and I'm like, what? And like,
it's not silent, guys.
And I'm like, no, there's an R there.
There's an R there.
I mean, it doesn't bother me. Names like that don't bother me, like Chris. I just but just spell it right.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't like if somebody calls me that, I don't care. It's fine. But yeah, to be honest, Britton, like I get to about 80 degrees and I tap out. Like anything over 80 degrees and I'm just I can't do it.
Same. Ugh. I lived in Florida for 5 years too, thinking that I'm tired of the Midwest. It is cold here. I'm going to move somewhere warm.
Yep. But I feel like, I mean, I've never lived in Seattle, but I would assume that it's not so blazingly hot as, you know.
Yeah, we've had some hot summers, and there was a couple of times where I felt like, do I need to move like to like the Yukon or like up in Alaska or
Canada?
Because this is getting warm. But yeah, I don't find our temperatures extreme, especially in the winter. Our winters are they're usually above freezing. They're usually around above the 32 mark. So
Okay.
After being in 0-degree weather in the Midwest, I much better. I love the weather up here much more, especially in the winter. I can go out and go on walks and stuff. Granted, I'm bundled, and you do get the drizzly rain during the winter here. This is where we get the misconception that we rain all the time in Seattle is primarily in our winter season, which is all mostly rain and like that, like irritating drizzle. Like, it's not like a hardcore like rain. It's always like that just dampness kind of thing. But our summers are really dry. I mean, from like you're here from May to like August, we don't have there's not a cloud in the sky for those like 4 months. I mean, once in a while we'll get a cloudy day, but we'll never get rain. It's just dry.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought, Bex. It's a silent R on the end.
It's a silent R. Everybody has a silent R on the end of their names.
Yeah. I did when I went to meet up with Andrew. It was so hot. Oh my goodness, it was so hot. We went down. We took a family trip down to the Ark in the Creation Museum down in Kentucky, and there was like a little kind of. It wasn't too much out of the way to stop in Indianapolis and hang out with Andrew for a lunch, but I think it was like 90 plus degrees at least half of the time we were down there, and we were just it was warm. So I didn't mind coming back to Minnesota.
I'm going to Indiana for Gen Con. So
nice. I would love to zip over to Gen Con.
There's another place that's another place I used to live. I used to live in Lafayette, Indiana. Yeah.
Okay.
I did my 4 high school years there.
Nice.
Yeah, it's not nice. It was such a culture shock from. I was originally from the East Coast, so.
Okay.
Big city, Philadelphia. So, it was a culture shock for me for sure. But
yeah, that makes sense. This is something that surprises a lot of people. So this was a while ago, but I had read on a like facts something or other post that Minnesota is one of the most widely ranged places in the world after like Siberia in terms of how cold to how hot we get. Because it's like a pretty massive degree range, because we can get down to negative 50, 60 wind chill in the wintertime. And then in the summer we get 90 plus degree up to 100 potentially days. So yeah, it's kind of wild. I don't know why we live here. Insert the my weather is better than your weather meme here too. Yeah, Andrew's going to be at Gen Con.
Sweet.
I would love to buzz over for that.
Gotta meet up.
I'm from Wisconsin. It gets swampy in the summer. Yeah, it's very humid often. The mosquitoes are great. It's our state bird over here.
Didn't you show the flag on that on your Discord?
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, Minnesota is redesigning our state flag right now, and somebody had put in a white flag with red stripes and then this giant mosquito in the middle of the flag. And I was like, you can tell me you live in Minnesota without telling me. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about your book, because I'm dying to get some. You've told us some stuff in the Discord, and you've been sharing a little bit. And I know Laura's been. It sounds like you guys have been kind of writing partners a little bit, going back and forth on your projects. But you've been working on this for a really long time.
Off and on, not like it's never been. It hasn't been a continuous thing, but
yeah,
I would say like 15 years of off and on, of course. it was young too, so it was in my little party years and all that.
Sure.
So a lot of that kind of went by the wayside, but a lot of the same concepts, a lot of the same things I have in mind are still there from 15 years ago. I just need to write a better.
Yeah. So what would you say was kind of like way back when you had the initial spark of an idea for the book? What was kind of the initial, here's the story I want to tell? I'm assuming it's changed a lot over the years, but what was the initial?
It has changed. Like when did I finally come up with what I wanted to? I think I had this ending in mind for like the longest time. Eventually, it's kind of like the synopsis of I wanted to tell. The chosen trope, comes up a lot of fantasy, and it's done really well. But I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted to do a story where we focus on the characters that are around the chosen and the ramifications, both good and bad, to what happens when these elitist characters get everything going their way, but it affects negatively people around them. And those are the characters I'm going to focus on. So I've always kind of had this like idea of how I wanted that to end, kind of thing. I've had like, and that was probably back in that time period. I wanted to just try to turn that chosen trope on its head a little bit and do something a little different with it. So the characters started, of course, forming, and I'm a big like cast character type of writer. I like those are the type of books I like to read. I think I've told you, but some inspirations, of course, were initially, of course, The Wheel of Time. But then back then, I read that first Malazan book, and I'm like, this is kind of what I want to do. It's just mind blown, and I'm like, and I was just like, just this huge cast, but everybody has a purpose. Everybody had their little moment to shine, and I think it was really cool. And there's important figures, but for the most part, you're not really following the important figures. You're following like these other characters, and at first I'm like, dang, he's writing the book I wanted, but I think that's the case with a lot of writers where you read a story and I'm like, what the hell, this is my storyline.
Dang it.
And I think from there, a little bit of Black Company too. It's of course on the darker side because there's not so good ramifications to things that happen to some of these characters. And then I had a second book in mind, and I was going through my head. And when you're younger, you're one of those people like, did you actually start writing it? No, I'm just got this cool idea, and now I got 3 books in my head. And I know everything that's going to happen. But did you start writing it? No. Yeah, but it's funny when I start planning, like I had all the plot points planned out, especially for this first book. I had all the plot points figured out, and I already discussed this with you, but for the chat's sake, I was deviating from it. The characters were kind of doing their own thing. They were kind of just
hate it when they do that.
And I was like, dang it. And it's like, you got to get back here, and as long as they're hitting the plot points, which they were just getting there in a different way. I'm sure a lot of it is a little bit too much where it's just going to be chop, chop, chop. But they were getting to their points. They were getting to where they needed to go, but they were just taking it in their own direction. I also changed a POV thing where I felt like there was a husband and wife in my book, and it was following the husband, and I'm thinking, the wife has the better storyline. I'm going to give it to her. So when I'm doing my rewrite now, I have to change all of his chapters to her point of view. Some of them I think can stay, but her voice is so much different than his because she's been through a lot of past trauma. that I need to now incorporate that a little bit more into that writing. So those are going to be almost like complete entire chapter rewrites, like from first to beginning. So I try to start off as a plotter, but then I think I just become that dancer. It's just like, and then this happened because this is what I'm in the mood for, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I know you and I talk about characters quite often when we are referring to books. And I think like it is a lot writing multiple perspectives in the same book and trying to keep all of those threads kind of somewhat headed in the right direction, especially, and like it sounds like you're finding too, like as those characters start coming off the page, and then there's more of a push and pull a little bit, where it's not just you as the catalyst for the story, but the characters are starting to take on a little bit of a life of their own, and sometimes that's helpful and sometimes it really messes with you.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Ryan says he's intrigued. Yeah, so I was curious if you could pick a character from your story and introduce us to them without spoilers, if you're willing to do that. Obviously, don't share anything you're not comfortable with, but.
Okay. Let's see here.
Or here's a good one. I mean, Zach has a question that fits right in with that. Do you have a favorite character you've written? So either or.
Yeah, I can probably do both. So the one character, he is known as a Bladeborn. He was taken from his mother at an early age. These guys are specifically trained by by the emperors, and they're kind of like his personal guard. But these are more specially trained, where they start from a very young age. They're learned to form a brotherhood. Of course, they're all they're all males. The females are also taken, but at a later age, and they're trained more for they're trained for battle, but they're trained for like the medical tents, the mending of machines. They do a lot of the mechanical work, the forging, of weaponry and all that. So they take on that kind of role. But writing his character is a challenge, and which I appreciate, because he lacks the emotion because of the way he was taken and the way he's trained. The only thing he knows is the blade. He's essentially a human tool for the emperor. He's not like a regular soldier with, a family or something to technically live for, because he's trained for one thing. So the interesting thing is, how do I make this character alive, and how do I make him likable when he has this kind of attitude, or just kind of this deadpan attitude where he's just does his duty kind of thing. He's pointed into a direction of a battle, he goes no hesitation. So it's based on the characters around him, I think, that pull him into what I want him to be. And I just find him kind of compelling. And I think as it goes, he starts learning. There's, of course, a little bit of the bitterness there. His mother and dad are right there still. They're part of this training, but they're emotionless. They're bonded. The husband and wife are bonded, but just to have the child, and that's it. And then they do their duties elsewhere. So it's how does he cope with this? How does he deal with just this aloofness? But he does have this sense of brotherhood with fellow Bladeborn, because they're in a situation too. But it's dealing with, how do I make them emotional, and how do I make them approachable for a reader to want to read about this character? So
yeah, absolutely.
And then another.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh no! And then another fun character is he used to be a god, and now he's no longer a god.
Nice. Subvert. It's one of the things I love about fantasy writing, is that like we take in all of these influences that mean so much to us, and then we find new ways to kind of subvert or twist or try something new. And I think that's such a cool part of the genre, is that it's constantly evolving, and those classic tropes will always be there, and we will always love them, and people will continue to write them because we love them. But yeah, I think it's fun to subvert. I did some subversions in Bloodstones as well that were characters that I was like, what if instead of this we twist it a little bit and see how that goes.
I'm still early in the book, but yeah, I'm starting to get that sense. And it's weird when I read Bloodstones, and I think it's kind of cool because I just came off of Phased, so I still hear your voice in the book. It's just totally different, and it's just a unique experience, like it is another author. But I do see your voice in that, and I think it's just cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, I think, because like with Phased, the nature of the story, because it's such a intimate view of these two characters' lives, and they've spent most of their lives in a very caged kind of reality. You know, I've had people say, well, I wish, like, what about the world building, and what about, and it's like, well, in this particular story, I chose to keep a lot of that out because the girls are from such a small caged perspective of the world they live in. It didn't make sense for me to be like, and then here's all the things going on in the world, you know?
Yes. Yeah. And that's exactly what I pointed out in Phased was, I felt trapped like the girls. You didn't need a large world in that scenario, because that was the point, was the feeling, the enclosure of every scene they were in, even the field trip, spoiler warning, but field trip to the zoo. The zoo. It's like, it's a caged scenario. I think that was just really, really well done.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, what was interesting about switching between Phased and Bloodstones with that is just because now suddenly with Bloodstones, there's this, like, I'm playing with a much bigger stage and a lot more characters with more perspectives on what's going on. And so, like, you know, it's something that I've done before, but it was definitely a big jump different jump from Phased. I agree, Grufe. I'm here for that. I'm curious. Let's see, there were a couple other comments in here too. Zach said, love it. Buried the lead there.
Now I just got to deliver. Now I just got to deliver.
You will. I think it's awesome too that I think oftentimes we write the book that we like when we're meant to write it. And I think that it's not an accident that you've been percolating on this story for so long. And now suddenly you've tapped into a community of writers and readers and reviewers that are all like there as a network of help for you because that's what I found was Bloodstones. I would not have been ready to write Bloodstones a couple of years ago because I didn't have the community that I have now. And that makes a huge difference.
Yeah. I think, and it's like, I think my book reading is also the same. I can kind of put my book reading into that same thing. That's like prior to the channel, I was just in a dark age of reading. I needed like some motivation. It's tough when you don't have a friend circle that really is the reading type.
Yeah.
I mean, my spouse is, but even we don't read fast or a lot anyway. So so I think when I discovered book 2, I think that's kind of when I was like, okay, this exists. And I forget, I think Mike's book reviews, I think that was the first one that came up. And just then I soon discovered some others really quick after. And then the talking about the books and just talking about the books, I'm like, I haven't done this in like the 90s and, you know, in dark old coffee houses, you know. So it was nice to find that. And it's like, I want to do this, you know, I want to chat about books again, and it got me to read again. So like a few months before the channel, I was just prepping myself, you know, getting into a groove of reading. It's like, okay, I'm reading a lot of books, and the same with writing too. And I think you needed, I think, just listening to people like this, the whole nano thing going on right now, people listing how many words are getting done a day. I might not be able to write that day, but it sure inspired me to, the next available time I have to write. So
yeah, totally agree. It's really nice to have that accountability, because writing's such an isolated craft. It's hugely helpful to have a group of people that are all cheering you on and pushing you when when you fall down and you don't feel like giving up, and just kind of, nope, you can do this. So the book that you're working on now, do you have an idea of, are we looking at, is it a trilogy? Is it a longer series? What are you kind of planning?
I have 5 books planned.
5 books planned. Nice.
Yeah, I have stories for, I have the stories kind of plotted out for the first 3 and then the last one. The 4th one, I'm trying to find a wrap up. I don't think it can happen in 4 books is why I do that.
Sure.
But I'm just kind of looking at 5 right now. So it's a weird number. I know it's not usually a number that you see a lot. I don't think I can tell it in a trilogy. And I know trilogies are big because I think it is a perfect amount of series for people not to feel like, oh God, I'm starting this giant series. But I say if I can keep it under less than 6, 5. If I can do it in 4, I might be able to do it in 4. But my first rough draft of this one was, I'll make sure my dyslexic doesn't kick in, but I think it's 360,000 words. So it's what, that's Brando Sando size, isn't it?
It's close to it. Yep. I think Crystal Matar's Legacy of Brick and Bone is close to that too. I feel like maybe I'm off. Maybe I'm off on that. I know. One of the Stormlight archives was like 410 or 20,000, I think. But they're getting progressively longer, so I'm guessing that's like a Way of Kings area. Yeah.
Ryan Cahill looks like he's getting progressively larger too. So I think his last book was like
I don't know. Like, you'll have to teach me how you keep everything straight for like that many words, because I found with 150,000, I got to the end, I was like, whew, okay, I kept everything. Like, I think I was coherent through all of that.
I think and it's tough too to juggle 5 points of view characters in my book, and because part of me wants to have them in each chapter, kind of like Malazan did, but then your chapters are like 60 pages long, like Malazan. I'm not a big fan of long chapters.
No.
So then the other extreme is you write a chapter about one POV, and then you write about your other POVs, and then you don't see that first POV until like chapter 8, and it's just like, so it's like it's for me, it's going to be, I think this next revision is going to be, I'm going to have to be a little more structure oriented and aware, like, can I have 2 simultaneous chapters of the same character? Maybe here, maybe then I can go into, and the good news is 2 of the characters are often in the same space.
Yeah.
So I think I can add them in the same chapter, which I think might make sense. And then just switch out the POV with, a break or something, but which I think might be better. That way they both get their say and I don't have to go into another chapter, but it's going to be a process for sure.
For sure. Well, and I found that too with Bloodstones, where there's one that it goes like, not perfectly every other for the 4 POVs. Cause like in the beginning, there's 3 chapters from the same character, cause I'm establishing the beginning of the book. And then later on, there's a different character that has 2 simultaneous chapters, because I've read books where the cliffhangers get drawn out a little too far, and that drives me bonkers. And so I'm like, if I'm going to leave you with like a big, oh my gosh moment at the end of this chapter, I'm not going to put 3 other POVs in between before we go, because I think that honestly lessens the emotional impact, because then all of a sudden you've got time to like come down off of that emotional high, and then suddenly it doesn't matter as much.
Plus, it could be a couple days before a reader could get from that one chapter about that cliffhanger with that POV.
Yeah.
Then you're reading like 3-4 other chapters between there, that could be, for some people, that's a matter of days.
Right.
Not everybody
Exactly.
has a lot of time to read. And then when they get to the character again, like 5 days later, they're like, oh, okay, you know, kind of
I guess that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's going to be, I don't know why I did this to myself. I should have probably started with a small, you know, project book or something like that. But
go big or go home, you know?
I actually did a lot of short story. I have a couple short stories, and I have one of them I just did for a creative writing elective class I did just this past last year when I went to school. And she's actually using it for her class now. So
cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So
that's awesome.
And poetry, and I do like dabbing a little bit into poetry. I think it helps a little bit with my prose a little bit. So I'm not writing, because I do think my prose is a little straightforward. I don't think it's very flowery or anything like that. But it's getting me just in the hang of writing, you know, more creatively.
Yeah.
So, and I'll do that once in a while. So I will take breaks from the book I'm writing and do some of that if I feel like I'm in the, you know, in just a different kind of headspace of the day.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Tom. Tom says, all the power to you guys for writing. I can't imagine trying to create a story and then sharing it with others. So that's something like you're kind of dabbling in that a little bit now with like kind of a small writers group. How do you feel about, I know you're a ways off from it yet, but the idea of at some point, this story that you've been working on for 15 years now is going to fly the nest. And like, do you feel a pressure about that, or kind of nervous about that? Or are you excited more?
I mean, I think it's just human. I deal with a lot of self-doubt. I deal with self-doubt when I make a video. I deal with self-doubt, you know, with everything in life, my job, you know, everything that goes on. And it's, and this is one more thing. And it's just, I think the thing I need to focus on, this is number one for myself, just something that I've been passionate about writing, something that needed to get out on words, on paper, or on the computer, whatever. Just something that needs to get out of me. So I don't, you know, I don't think myself as like trying to be the next anything. I just want to be just true to myself and putting out something that I hope, you know, people find enjoyment with. And then, and if it's great, you know, and if it does well, awesome. And, you know, of course, when you get your critics, that's where you get your feedback, and you make your improvements. That's my hope. And I just write for myself though, primarily, and just getting this story out. And so being able to start sharing it with it. I want to start with something, you know, I want to start with something perfect to present to somebody. Because I mean, especially these early chapters are written like, you know, 15 years ago, and I'm sharing them with them. And I know I'm looking at them prior to sending them off to the group. And I'm like, man, this is very wordy, and God, there's so many proper names in this first prologue here. And just like, and sure enough, that's the feedback is like, you know, you can cut all of this exposition out. There's still, you know, you don't need that, but, you know, people are intrigued what's going on. So that's good. Get a lot I got a lot of pluses, and then, you know, it's just, you know, get rid of some of the unnecessary exposition, which is exactly what I saw for myself when I sent it out. So I think that's what we want. But it's like, you do really feel vulnerable when you do that, you know, when you put your work out there, and especially in the state it's in now, because then it's like, do you feel like you're a writer when you put out something that just needs a lot of work? And it's like, well, I mean, I still have to write my like 2 more revisions at least, and then the editing, and then whatever. So
but I think that's, you know, the right mindset to have about it, because as soon as we're not looking for feedback and critique, I think then you're not ready for the next steps of publishing and you know, putting your book out there. Because Bloodstones would not exist, and it would be a hot mess without all of the other people that were involved along the way that were helping me when I would get stuck. I mean, my main opening character of the book, Garen, I struggled so hard with him in the first part of writing the book for similar reasons as you were mentioning.
It's so amazing because that first chapter, I just so much love and care in it.
Thank you. I wrote it like 8 times.
I'm sure you did have to work really hard on that because that's important. That hook.
Yeah, the beginning is hugely,
and it shows. But yeah, I can't imagine the pain. You know, well, I can't.
Yeah, you know. Well, yeah. I mean, the first chapter of Bloodstones was rewritten probably 8 or 9 times, and it was because that first chapter, not only of the book, but of the entire, for me, a trilogy, and for you, the series, there's a lot of weight there. And to me, that's one of the most important chapters you'll ever write in the entire process. And I remember going to Chiago, and I was just tearing my hair out because I was like, I cannot figure Garen out. And usually for me, what I find is if I'm having a hard time writing a character, it's because I don't know them well enough yet. And so I need to do some work on like figuring out, okay, what do I not know about Garen that I need to know to make this work? Because there's a disconnect here between him and I. And Thiago literally sat with me for an entire afternoon, and we just hammered out Garen's personality and wants and fears and further than I had done prior to that. And without that help, I don't think Garen would have been half the character I was able to write because of that. So, huge props to having a writer's group that can really pick you up when you need it.
It's just a matter of swallowing your pride. Everyone,
exactly, 100%.
I mean, everybody in the writers group is at the same level. We're all like putting out our drafts. We're not on any kind of like almost ready to publish kind of status yet. And that's the good thing. It's just like learning that, nobody's out to hurt you. We're all here to just give you the best critique you can do to clean it up and then put out a fantastic piece of literature.
Yeah. I think, Robert, I've gotten to a point where I don't either anymore. It depends on who I'm sending it to. That definitely makes a big difference. But for the most part, I actually have the opposite problem now where I write like a scene and then I want to send it to like 4 people and be like, what do you think? What do you think? I'm definitely a talk it out type of writer. So I really enjoy having people around me that I can bounce ideas off of. And that's actually what my like developmental stage looks like, is a lot of talking it out in brainstorming sessions and figuring out, I don't like outline on a page, but I sit and I'm like, okay, so this happens. And then what if we did something like this? And how do you feel about that? And what if I, and I think that may be my extrovert coming out a little bit. But yeah, I have the problem of I try to send it out too much, too fast, I think, because I'm just so desperate to get other people's thoughts on it.
No, I get that. I think with this, I think I'm actually, I think I don't know which way I'd rather go. Do I want to give it to people I know, or do I want to just give it to complete strangers? And part of me wants to just give it to complete strangers. So I get maybe more. I think I would feel more comfortable with complete strangers because I want to be able to gift my reading, my book to my friends, kind of thing, like finished product to my friends, and let strangers do all the hard work.
Exactly. Derek, quick answer for you. So the Advent of Winter is the Kickstarter. It just closed yesterday morning. You could reach out to Dom. I don't know how Kickstarter works in terms of like late backers before everything goes on. I don't know if that's a possibility or not, but you might be able to join in for the digital Advent calendar still. And also the hardback and paperback will still be available probably early next year on Amazon. It just won't be the foil stuff. So
how many How many total are in that, Tori?
24 of us.
24?
Yep. So one for each day of the Advent calendar from December 1st to the 24th. And yeah, it was really fun. We were all in a Discord together, and I was actually kind of surprised, and I want to give Dom a huge shout out for asking me to be in it, because he's never read anything I've written. So he has no idea. And I was like, I said, Dom, I really appreciate you giving me the chance to be in this, because I'm really excited about it and I can't wait to write the short story. But that's like, you're taking like a massive chance on having me in here, because you've never, read anything I've written. And he was very gracious about it and stuff. And the short story I wrote for the anthology, I'm incredibly excited for everybody to read, because it's very different than anything I've read or written before. And I decided to kind of take a break from Bloodstones. It was in the middle of me writing kind of the middle section of Bloodstones, and I desperately needed a brain break. And I was like, all right, I've always wanted to write a necromancer character, because that's always the character I play in video games. And I'm going to try first person, and we're just going to see what that's like. And I went from there, and I loved it. It was so much fun. And I think first person for me, I hadn't found the right character to want to write first person. And when I discovered Hunter, I was like, we're good, let's go. So yeah, I'm very excited about it coming out, and I'm kind of sort of planning a series based on the short story now. So nice. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm very excited. I never
played with first person yet.
Yeah, it's
even in my short stories, I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah, I think you definitely, the biggest thing is just finding the right voice, finding the right character that, because I really firmly believe that first person is something to be used like salt. Like, moderation, and make sure that you have a character that's honestly worthy of the first person, because it's if it's just kind of a pants character, then it's kind of boring. So
absolutely.
So hopefully everybody likes Hunter. She was fun to write. She's a bit of a kind of Nordic sassy queen. So very practical. She's a bounty hunter. So yeah, it was great fun. You know what? I think all of us, no matter how many times you do it, it's still a little scary, but it's honestly one of the best things you can ever do for your writing. If you legitimately want to get better and grow and learn and keep moving forward, I think that's like number one hurdle to get over. I want to start with something perfect is a vibe, Chris. Perfectionist anxiety is wonderful.
I want to start with something perfect. Then we'll go down.
It'll be fine. Yeah, I'll make it worse. The final product will be worse than the draft.
It's like when you see Martha Stewart bake something and then you try to bake it.
Right? Your cake's kind of like lopsided and gooey. Yep. Makes me wonder if it's easier sending out a rough draft more than a polished one. From my experience, yes and no. I know that the minute I hit publish on the Bloodstones on the 28th, I will find a typo 5 minutes later. I know that. Like, that's just a truism of, like, no matter how many eyes have been on this book, there will be a typo no matter what.
And you know what? Hey, it happens in trad pub too.
It's fine. Yeah. Yep. I actually get really excited when I find typos in trad pub books, because I'm like, see, it's there too. Thanks, Groofy. Once we clicked, he was really fun to write and very cathartic in a lot of ways. Books with Genghis Khan just joined. Did you say you're in the same writing group? So cool. LOL if I got that wrong. Kind of. Yeah. I mean, we have a writer's chat in my Discord that we all chat in. And then Chris, you and Laura from Fantasy Awash have been kind of chatting back and forth.
Her husband is also a writer.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah. Three others actually. We added another Josh. So I don't know if he is. I think he's. I don't see him anywhere on like Discords or anything. I think it's just a friend of maybe Josh and Laura's. Yeah, it's a good mix too, because we're all writing something different. I think me and Laura's Josh is probably the closest to each other with epic-ish fantasy. Laura's writing humorous fantasy, and
then
we have a horror writer, and we have a another like a short, like a young adult author. So it's a nice
good
blend.
mix. Yeah. I mean, that's another piece of advice that I always give out is read outside your genre.
Right.
100%. So outside of fantasy, that's a question I'm going to ask you. Outside of fantasy, what do you enjoy reading, if anything?
So I do enjoy sci-fi. I think it's the same reason why we love fantasy. Fantasy is generally about the unknown, the unexplainable. Sci-fi kind of goes in hand a little bit. We have the science and technology in sci-fi, but we're still exploring the unknown, just in a more galactic, larger scale than in fantasy, which is more condensed into usually like one small world. So I enjoy that. And then, of course, also historical fantasy is actually where I read a lot when I was younger, more so when I studied archaeology. Are you going to live, Tori?
I think I'm good. I'm so sorry. Always happens as soon as I go on a camera. I'm like, I'm going to try and drink water and not die. You were saying. I was listening.
No.
I promise.
I was just making sure you're okay.
Thank you.
But yeah, and then historical fiction, I started actually when I was younger. I started that a lot. My 20s, I was just really big into, I studied archaeology and ancient history the first time I went to college. So so historical fiction kind of just went hand in hand. And you could just, I think there's a fantasy element to it, and that
for sure
just coexists. You know, I mean, George R. R. Martin, I mean, that his books are very based on the War of the Roses kind of thing. And I think it just ties in really well. But and then I'll read some humor books, like just not like autobiography, just like some fun humor books. And then like travel, I like travel narratives, and then I'll read some general history as well. But those are not so much now that I'm kind of really, since I'm focusing the channel on fantasy and sci-fi and a little bit of historical fiction, that's kind of where I'm going to keep it. But periodically I'll pick those up. And then of course I do read writing books too, like books on writing and all that. Sometimes I'll pick one up, but those are getting rare now with everything else I'm reading.
So in terms of history, because I'm also a huge ancient history buff, do you have like a favorite civilization era that you enjoy?
I love ancient Rome, Egyptian, because that's a lot of my excavations. I specialized in marine archaeology, so a lot of the early excavations were in the Mediterranean. So that's kind of where I would spend a lot of my time is underwater. So I love that whole Mediterranean area. So a lot of the books about, and then I do like ancient Mesopotamian. I do like some of the Asian stuff from China and all that too, but more focused kind of in the Mediterranean area.
Cool.
For sure.
Yeah, I got into ancient Egyptian historical fiction when I was very young, and that has always been, I mean, I think honestly I can credit that with a lot of my love of fantasy, because so much of that ancient history is like, it has such a fantasy element to it because it's so drastically different and yet same in a lot of ways.
I mean, the stories just never get old. I mean, stories of world myth and folklore, saying folklore, right? That was another video. I couldn't say, but those stories, I mean, they still stick with us. I mean, look what's even available in contemporary fiction right now, stories about Circe and Ariadne and all of these ancient Greek myths. There's still Camelot and Knights of the Round Table. Those stories never get old because they have this historical, aspect to our lives. So I think it just, and that's why those stories just still do well and still sell well. It's because we still like living in that kind of like that unknown in the dark without technology or science to explain things away for us. We like the mystery. And I think that's what draws us to fantasy. Absolutely.
Totally agree. Have you read or gotten a copy of Children of Gods and Fighting Men by Shauna Lawless yet?
I haven't. No. Okay. It's on my list. It's on the good old spreadsheet.
TBR. Yeah, I have a copy of the book, and I'm really excited because I don't know a ton about Celtic mythology, and I really would like to get into her book because I've heard some amazing things about it.
Awesome. Yeah. I just our world itself is just, you could see where these stories derive so much of their inspiration to, and it's so much from our real world and just all over. And it's great that you can just create these like fantastic stories with magic and mythical beasts, but it's all derived from our own real life culture and our real life history. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Brian really enjoyed Wickwire Watch. That pleases me greatly.
Yep. Those finalists are all there. It's a very unique mix.
Yeah, it's so varied. Wickwire is probably going to be in my top 10 reads of the year. It's there were so many moments where I had to kind of stop and say, this is a debut. This has no business. This has no business being this good. I just read the third one this month out of the ones that she only has the 3 out so far, and it's going to be a 7-book series. So,
oh wow, okay.
I'm like, hey Jackie, when's book 4 coming out? Dom is a legend. He's awesome. This is also. Oh, go ahead.
Like when I was just a comment. He was like one of the first where I started getting all my self-pub Rex from, and I'm like, you are killing my bank account. But
right, we're all just professional enablers over here on BookTube, you know.
Yep, absolutely.
Big ask to get someone's eyes on a rough draft. Most people are not used to reading unpolished work, and if some random friend of yours is doing the reading, they may not. Yeah, that's very true, Daniel. That's a good point. I think it's important to know who you're asking to look at, because a lot of people jump in too fast too. They try to do like a line edit when you just ask them to tell them the overall, like, how do you feel about this? You know? Yeah, it's tricky. And that's why I think, slowly curating your village and your community of writers is really important. Getting to know who you work well with. A bit of a Nordic sassy queen myself. Yes. Nordic bounty hunter. Who's also a necromancer.
It's going to be a cool read, but now I kind of want to wait until like actual Advent, like Christmas, to read it. So I wonder if
I don't even know what day of the Advent calendar it's coming out on yet. So it's sometime in December. I know not December 5th because that's my son's birthday, and I asked Dom to avoid that day. But
okay, yeah, I was going to say you guys get to pick preferences on the day you get.
He basically said, like, if there's any day of the month that you really don't want your story to come out on, just let me know. And I said, I don't care as long as it's not December 5th, because I don't want to be like checking messages and worrying about it while we're doing birthday stuff. So Christopher, if you haven't read Severing Sun, you'll probably be into it. The second book has a really historical fiction feel. I can't remember. Have you read that one yet or not?
Yeah, it was. I had it on my TBR for September. And this is kind of when I went kind of like you did with your monthly TBRs. And I think I was overwhelming myself with too many reads in a month, and I didn't get to it. And I kind of, but it's definitely, I'm going to get to it to give it the time it's due, because I wasn't in the headspace during that time. I was just, I needed a YouTube break and a overindulgence reading break. I kept saying yes to many buddy reads, and I had to take a break. And
that is fair.
Yeah. Like I said, my health is better from doing that, and I getting back to better videos. But analytically it hurt YouTube, but I don't really care about that. I just care about having enjoyment again. So, but Severing Sun, and I actually reached out to Vaughn, I think, and told him, I said, I said, I haven't forgotten you because I know you knew I had it on my TBR for September, and I am going to read it. So
he's the nicest guy. He's such a nice guy.
He's really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I could not ever get enough of fantasy books with like ancient world settings. I will never get enough of that. I love it.
Yeah.
Great source of story kernels. There's so many incredibly rich cultures all over through all periods of history from all over the world that are just like incredibly intriguing and interesting and different. And like, yeah.
I think that's why I clicked with Malazan so much, because you can see Erickson's love of, I think, didn't he study archaeology?
He's an archaeologist. Yep.
Yeah. So, and you see it in his pages.
You do.
The world is, you felt long lived in, and everything there is just felt long lived. And I just love that aspect. And I think that's why I was inspired so much by his world and his showcase of this, of everything there in Malazan. And I'll definitely always credit Erickson to my own work for sure.
Same. Yep. I actually included him in the acknowledgements page of my book because I
probably will too.
Really credit his work for just completely expanding my mind on what was possible with fantasy and how just the depth of the world and the depth of the characters and the way he handled some incredibly profound and difficult themes with such intentionality, and just, it was mind-blowing, honestly. So, and I haven't even finished the series yet. Ancient Minnesota lutefisk fossils. Lutefisk is no joke, you guys. Where I went to college, I went to a small Christian college, and we had the dorm building was like on top of the cafeteria on the first floor. And in the fall every year, there was the college was founded by Norwegians. So there's like a Norway themed thing, festival that happens every year in the fall, and they make lutefisk for it. The problem with that is the girls' dorms are above the cafeteria. So for about 2 to 3 weeks after the festival, our dorm, and thankfully I was on the 5th floor, so it was a little bit lighter up there, but it just smelled like lutefisk for like 2 weeks after that. It was awful. It was not good. Celtic myth is amazing. There are a lot of powerful women. That's what I'm hearing about Shauna's book. I'm very somebody said the Celtic Cersei Lannister.
Cersei.
Yep.
I want to read, speaking of historical fiction here, I want to read Boudica by Amanda Scott.
Amanda Scott, yes. I have that on my shelf too.
Brothers Grimm is usually my go-to for when I want a historical fiction read. So I want to get to that series. I have the first book on the shelf. But, yeah.
Rachel Morley, I always have a spot in my history-loving heart for the Mongol Empire. A shepherd girl becoming a cavalry general makes for one heck of a tale. Absolutely. Robert says, when I got beta reads, I sent out how to be a helpful reader document for people to read first. That's really smart, actually.
That's great.
Malazan is the single most lived-in series I have ever read. Yep, completely agree.
Love it. No.
Britain says Norse myth is my thing. There's a lot of good stuff in there too.
I have yet to read The Faith in the Fallen. Right? Is that what it's called?
Yep, Faithful in the Fallen. Yep.
I've read his first two, To the Bloodsworn.
Okay.
I did read them, and I did enjoy those. I think those were some great characters that he wrote.
I'm excited. Right? I'm reading that one next, actually. Shadow of the Gods.
Sweet. Okay. Yeah. You'll have to let me know. I really like those two, the first two books. I'm guessing there's a third one coming out or something.
Yes.
But yeah, the characters are fantastic work, I think. And the world is just that whole Norse feel to it.
Yeah.
It's great. So, but
I'm
I have
excited
to check out The Faithful and the Fallen at some point too. I don't feel like I don't feel like I'm a full-fledged booktuber, and until I have those shown on the shelves, because it's like
they're right there. Yeah, I read those last summer, and just they're incredibly bingeable. So if you start it, I would give yourself time to just they're not they're chunky books, but they're not like dense reads. You fly through them pretty fast, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, I flow through Bloodsworn pretty quick, so
yeah.
if it's kind of along the same lines as those, I should be okay.
Yeah, I'm excited. One of the things that I've been hearing about this that I'm looking forward to is the mother character, because I've heard she's very good. Orca.
Yeah, there's some great character work in this, and I was really impressed with his characters. They were just unique characters that I've never read before, and I think you'll like her. Orca, I think her name is.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. Brian, I feel you on this. I really do. Like, I love Malazan. Those chapters are insane. I totally totally get it.
Yeah, there's no stopping point. I don't know how people I especially don't know how people do audio with Malazan. I give credit people who can do audio for Malazan. No way in heck can I do. I need 100% page turning, old-fashioned page. It's not even the Kindle. I don't think I can do the Kindle even. I need to see where the break is, so I can put my bookmark or my finger there and know how far I have to go to finish a chapter. It's oh, this book's only got 12 chapters. Well, your chapters are 80 pages
80 long. Pages long. I think I'm trying to remember which one it is. If it's in Toll the Hounds or Dust of Dreams. If anybody's read it in the chat, let me know. But one of those, I think, has 120 or 30 page chapter in it that everybody always talks about.
Yeah, and this is what we were talking about earlier, because he does flip to POVs in each one of his chapters. And it's I don't know if I want to do that. I want to probably make them shorter chapters and just maybe consecutive chapters with one character at a time or something.
Yeah. all the I had a moment with Bloodstones where I panicked because I was like, oh my gosh, can I run 2 chapters with consecutively with the same character? Oh my gosh, I haven't done that before in the book. And then I stopped and I was like, yes, this is my book. I can do whatever I want.
Exactly. And I think there are times you can just tell that it just needs to continue a little bit more. I like you with the cliffhanger. I think if I do a cliffhanger, I think I might want to maybe go right into it again. Yep. Unless it's a really something I want people to really think about for a bit. But I don't. If they're like minor things, though, I probably would continue on until I know there's like an kind of like an end beat, and then of course time and chronologically where other characters need to move to a certain position to catch up with everybody. Kind of.
Yep. Yep. Good old travel quests.
Good old travel quest. Yep, I got a travel quest in there. So.
Love that. So what are you reading right now?
What am I reading? Well,
I should have asked you that at the beginning. But
I'm reading the Blood.
Yes.
I'm still early in that, and I'm reading the Pathlighter.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I still have it here. Okay. I'm reading the Pathlighter by
Rob Leigh.
Yeah. Rob Leigh. Yeah.
That one looks really good. You'll have to let me know what you think.
This one comes out on the 20th of this month.
Okay.
So
very soon.
So I am switching off between you and his because his comes out a little sooner than yours does. So I still have a little bit of time before the release of yours.
Yep.
Which is the goal. So that's kind of, and those are the two I got going on. And then of course next will be the Genghis Khan, where I'm going to take a little break from
fantasy
and switch up some historical fiction. Then I'm actually going to do a sci-fi after that.
Ooh, fun. Do you have any ideas of which sci-fi you want to read?
Yes, I've been wanting to. This is another book that hit me when I was on my kind of sabbatical from BookTube, so I want to get to this.
Nice. Love the cover.
Brian, he was super nice guy too. Got to chat with him a little bit. So want to get to that and then continue on with the Sun Eater Cedar series with Christopher Rowe. Yeah. I'm on book 2 with Howling Dark.
Howling Dark. I'm gonna try really hard to give myself some time to read that next year. Like, obviously, I don't make any promises with series for that I'm like, oh, I'm for sure gonna read this, but that is one that I know I'm gonna finish the Red Rising books first, and then I'm gonna read Sun Eater probably mid to late next year.
I got to continue with Red Rising too. I'm on Iron Gold, so I've
okay.
And I think Morningstar was back in March, so
yeah,
I'm a little behind. But I look at it as like, hey, if you're waiting for a new release, that's usually a year, right? So
right, exactly, yeah. And I'd love to be able to binge through those 3 and then wait for Red God to come out. I'm very excited for that. So because then I know for sure it's theoretically done. yeah. So that'll be good.
My goal for my writing is to get it out before Winds of Winter is out.
I think you have some really good odds there, Chris. I really do. I think so. I think you do. Unless he just shocks us randomly. Yeah. I think you'll be good. Okay. I'm excited. I can't wait. It's always fun when because I think you can tell a lot about an author based on the books that they write, but I think it's even more fun when you read books from people because you can see so much of them in the story, and that's what's so cool about it. Yeah, Derry agrees. But yeah, so we've been going for almost 2 hours, which I love, and I feel like we could honestly go for 2 more. But I wanted to end with a book that you've read this year that you think everyone in the chat should go check out.
Ooh,
like a recommendation.
Let's see.
Back to the shelves.
Good thing I didn't finish the Bloodstones yet. I want to do a self-pub, and I want to do a...
Go for it.
And it's forbidden. Okay, I know my friend. The Judas Bloom.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a beautiful copy.
Yeah, I got the broken binding. I went bougie on this because I enjoyed it. I read it on Kindle and I enjoyed it. Nice. Fantastic story. It's got the historical fiction feel to it. But just beautiful, can fit right into fantasy just as well too. Fun read. It was just gorgeous read. As to I want to pull a Rob Hayes. I really do.
Did you read Spirits of Vengeance this year?
I did not read Spirits of Vengeance. Okay. I read Khan's Gambit and Never Die.
Okay.
But
we are going to have a conversation when you read Spirits.
Yeah. Oh God, there's too much self-pub I read this year.
It's going to be the top 10s and the best books I read this year videos are going to be tough this year. It's going to be tough.
Yeah. I guess I got to go with and I read all 3 of the series.
Yes.
This is another. And ironically, this is yet another historical fiction.
Hey, we love it. It's the year for historical fiction. Let's go.
But, the Tang Dynasty and the Yellow Turban War and all that. It was just a great story. The person you follow in this book is just awesome. Grows substantially through each book. Just good time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Have you read past the first one yet?
I read the first two.
First two. Okay. I have the second one. I still need to get to it. I can't read fast enough. There's so many books I need to get to.
I'm not a fast reader. It's average. I average about a book a week.
Okay.
Memories of Ice is going to be the entire month and probably part of December.
Yep. It's a chunk.
Yeah.
Brian, can't wait to do my top 10 of the year list. They're fun. It's fun. It's very nostalgic to go back and look at like all the books that you've read in the year and try to narrow down to your favorites.
I think I'm gonna have a hard time.
Yeah, I'm going to too. I know there's a couple books that I know for sure are going to be on there that like, you know, aren't even a competition, but it's like the other 5, it's like half it's going to be easy and half I'm going to be like scratching my forehead for about 3 hours trying to figure it out.
I mean, look how long it took me to pick out that self-pub, and it's like I knew I could pick it, but I was like, well, I could pick that and I could pick that, and
Yep. Feels like only yesterday we were getting everyone's best of 22. It really does. I know. I was looking back at what I was putting out for videos a year ago, and like going into December, which was one of my biggest months of the year last year. And I'm just looking at all these videos. I was like ranking all of the series that I've finished. And now I have all these other series I can add to that list. And
do you allow multiple books by the same author, or can you only do you only allow one author?
I only do one per author. Yeah. Usually. I mean, it'll depend on, it'll depend. I think I'll probably just do one book per author, just because I think for me that makes more sense, but I don't know if that makes it easier or harder. Because like Wickwire, I loved Spider Key, which was the second book of the Riverfall Chronicles after Wickwire Watch. I just read Blue Flames and loved that one. So like the possibility that there could be 2 books by the same author on there. Thankfully, I read, I think Spirits of Vengeance is the only book of the Mortal Techniques I read this year. Because I read Never Die in Pawn's Gambit last fall. And
did you back this Kickstarter?
No. So I'm trying really hard to be good. There's so many Kickstarters. And if like I'm kind of sitting on my money for the Mortal Technique special editions, because when he does those, I'm all over it.
I will be too. I love the art on the current paperbacks, but I would love to see what they really do with special editions. Totally. Yeah. That's definitely one I'd be jumping onto.
I wonder if, because Never Die, especially, and Pawn's Gambit is too, like, I mean, you've got the first 2, which are like together the width of the third one.
The width of the spirit. Yeah.
And once we get into book 3, Rob decided he wanted a different spine thing going on. So I don't know if he's going to do like an omnibus of them or what, because I know he is working on a 4th one.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yep.
And then I still have to read his other series too. The other, what does he have? Like a book, like 5 book series, 5, 6 book series? 5
book series, yeah. There you go. Somebody else who did one.
Subliminal Message 5 is cool. Yeah.
Yeah. War Eternal. Yeah, I have the first one of that. That's a good luck, Gurfei. I mean, I know what I would pick, but I also know that those 2 are usually like Memories of Ice is a big favorite for a lot of people.
Do you find yourself when you do these lists repeating authors every year? Like,
if I read them again, sometimes I think it's going to depend. I don't count rereads. So like I reread Gardens of the Moon this year and I reread Red Rising this year. I'm not going to count either of those because that would be unfair.
Can't win every year, right?
You can't win everything. Oh, look, my top 10 is the same every year. Look at that. But yeah, I do. Well, I mean, it's tough because I think a lot of the authors that I've read, I haven't read more than like one series of a lot of them yet, because I'm still like fairly new-ish to the genre. New-ish in terms of like reading multiple series by the same author and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's going to be, I'm like, this will be, you know, my second John Gwynne series, and then hoping to get to another Rob J. Hayes pretty soon. But yeah, Sanderson is really the only one.
Can I end with a question to you?
Yes.
What do you most looking forward to in 2024? What do you think you have for big reading plans?
Big reading plans. I'm going to read Dune next year. That's on my goal list for next year. What else? I want to continue through Malazan. I would love to finish Malazan next year. That would be a huge but I'm being very careful.
Reread for you? Is the entire series a reread for you? No.
Nope. I'm rereading up to House of Chains, and then everything past that'll be brand new for me. I'm not pushing that because I'm a firm believer in the fact that Malazan should take as long as it takes and not be forced. But yeah, I don't know, Britton. I have no idea if I'm excited. I have a really beautiful the like Barnes and Noble black. I barely resisted the gold one, and then when they came out with the black version, I
got the gold one, and then the black one came out, and I'm like, can I justify just buying? I mean, I liked Dune, but I don't know if I liked it enough.
I don't know either. We'll find out. It's got the like really cool end papers and stuff too. Ooh, nice. Yeah, the gold one is so gorgeous too.
Yeah, so. And I think actually I think that one is my favorite, although they're all gorgeous.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah, I love the colors of that one.
And Children of Dune.
Nice.
Cool. Dune Messiah and Children are actually, I felt like, for me, were stronger reads than regular Dune. Dune was great for its time, and I love Dune, but I think Dune Messiah and Children of Dune were stronger entries for me in the series.
I think honestly, I'm at a point where I'm more objective when I go into books now than I was even a couple of years ago with an epic fantasy. I really don't go in, or try not to go into books with kind of a preconceived idea of comparison, or this book needs to be this way for me to enjoy it. So, and I really found that with wherever that went, Long Price Quartet this year, which is a series that I don't think I would have enjoyed 2-3 years ago. And I just love it. I love it so much. And I think it showed me how much I've grown as a reader as I've read more widely in the genre, and is a nod to the Booktube community, honestly, for getting me outside my comfort zone and teaching me to appreciate series that I probably wouldn't have. Because if you look at Red Rising versus Long Price Quartet, like very different, pretty much polar opposites.
Yeah. But I think, Long Price Quartet is just so underrated. I wish underrated. I just wish it was talked to about as much as like Sanderson, or
I do too,
or all these other popular authors. I just don't know why it doesn't. It's just, oh man, I need to reread it. I need to reread it.
It's beautiful.
Talk about a series that I want a special edition on.
Right. I would back that so quickly. we should yell at Broken Binding whenever they do one of their get a bunch of us together and I'll yell LPQ.
And the omnibus is cool, but I kind of like them separate too. So I think I would love. I have like all my books off the shelf because of this.
Oh, you have the hardcovers.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
But
yeah.
But they're all like some of them are really old too because they were really hard to find. So, but I would love a special edition of those. And I still have to read I still have to read the Kithamar book 2, and I have to read the Dagger and the Coin yet. But
I haven't read either of those either.
And I have to read Expanse too. So
yeah. I
have to read this, and I have to read that.
Yeah, same. I'm so excited to read that. As soon as I was, I think on the second book of Long Price Quartet, I went and I purchased Age of Ash and the first 3 of the Dagger and Coin immediately, because I was like, I don't care what this man has written, I want to read it because wow. I think honestly, it's something that if somebody tells me that they're a fan of Malazan, I would ask them, if you haven't read Long Price Quartet yet, why not? Because honestly, there's such a profound beauty in the way that he explores his characters and the world. And it's not fast paced, which is why I was surprised I loved it so much. I love it to bits and pieces. Yeah. And I think it proves that I am indeed a character reader. But yeah, it's amazing, Grufe. I hope you really enjoy it, because it's a very underrated series. Pete, I promise I will get to it. It's going to happen. I'm finishing it before the end of the year, 100%. That is going to happen, because I don't want to leave. Like, I have a couple of series that I don't want to leave hanging by the end of the year. Greenbone is up next as well after I finish Shadow of the Gods. So I'm excited to finish that out.
Oh yeah, Jade Legacy, right?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. So finishing that, just finished Mike Shackle's Until the Last Witch. I got to show you guys really quick.
Oh yes.
Because I got the broken binding versions, and they are just.
Mine's in a box downstairs.
Oh, they're so pretty. Like.
Oh God.
This is my favorite cover of the 3. Still, I just think, and it was my favorite book of the trilogy too. This is the first one. They've got the really cool, like. Sorry, spoilers. Ruining your box opening for you.
No, it's.
But yeah, they're beautiful. I'm not really much of a collector, but I definitely wanted to get those. So
yeah, it's tough. It's expensive. They're in the UK base, so getting that shipping and handling is just like.
Yep. Yes, we are, Groufé. We are still doing Jade Legacy. I promise. I haven't forgotten.
I look forward to your thoughts. It's this last book is presented a little differently than the first 2 books.
I'm excited.
So I think it's the best personally in my opinion. I think it is my favorite of the 3. They're all very close though. There's not like a large dip between the books compared to how I like them. Yeah. And but I think I like what she did with Jade Legacy, and I hope you do too.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think Jade War I had a hard time with, I think, because the family dynamics, which was what I loved so much in book 1, took such a backseat.
That was my third. It goes Legacy City and then more.
Yeah, and I loved Jade City. I don't think I loved it until I thought I'd sat on it for a while. I really enjoyed it, and then the more I thought about it, the more I was appreciating what I had been reading. It was one of those like the aftertaste was, continued to improve the read. Jade War made me frustrated because it took such a backseat. And then from what I've heard and what I'm hoping is that Jade Legacy is going to go back to more of that. So, Brian, you know what? You're allowed.
I listened to a talk with Josh, Josh, Jimmy, Hillary, and Joanna, and they were talking about Jade War.
I saw that,
and like I think Jimmy's was Jade War, but then Bookborn and Joanna's least favorite was War. So there was like definitely a mix in that group too. So it's always interesting which one always clicks with things, and I think that's cool. It just shows how well of a writer she is. Like there's not a large consensus like this book just was the worst, right? And that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sorry, Britton. Sorry, not sorry. I liked book 2 the best of the 3 by far. Book 1 was okay. Book 3, I never want to talk about again. I just was so mad.
First half of it was okay.
Yeah.
First half of it was okay. And then the last half, I was like, I was like, and I was doing audio, because of the narrator, because I love Casey, but I was like, what the heck is going on here? And at first I thought I was like, I like missed something. I accidentally hit the skip next chapter thing, and I'm like, what is going on here? And I just felt it was like abrupt, kind of thing, or something. I felt like there was just something missing from the end, but it's still enough for me to recommend the series. But yeah, that I was a little disappointed with the second half of Last Argument.
See, like, I understand this. Like, I have friends who have the same comment about it, and I totally understand that. I personally hated that. I hated that it felt like, what was the point? What was even the point? Like, that made me feel like the payoff had just been ripped away, and that I don't like. Like, I do want, as a reader, I want the payoffs, because if I've put in this time, I want my payoffs.
I kind of called the ending Much Ado About Nothing.
Yeah. Yep. I I think I am definitely excited to go into the standalones, especially I've been hearing good things about the heroes, and I love the idea of fantasy westerns. So Red Country, I'm very excited to check that out. I'm hesitant about Best Served Cold only because, and I want to do a video about my irritation with strong female characters trademark. And I'm a little nervous that that's going to kind of lean into that a little bit. We'll see. Because that's what I struggled with a little bit in First Law with Pharaoh. So, but I'm definitely going to read them all. And I'm definitely, because I think he's a really brilliant writer. Totally agree with that.
I heard he does like a 180 with female characters in Age of Madness. I heard
that's what I've heard.
Well written in that. So I haven't decided if I'm doing standalones first or if I have to do standalones before I read Age of Madness, but
I don't know. I'll probably do it in publication order just because I'm,
maybe
like that.
Yeah, I was thinking I'd probably do it that way too. I don't know if I want to commit to another series right now with the ongoing one I have, so I might do standalones. That's a big thing for me. 2024 is like I'm gonna read some Guy Gavriel Kay.
Nice. I've heard good things about him too.
Yeah, I'm gonna do some of that with Ben and Talking Story John. So we're gonna read
fun. John's awesome.
GGK because none of us have read him yet. So
yeah, I haven't either. I'm looking forward to that.
Okay. Well, we're thinking February, so
all right, keep me posted.
Yeah,
I'm trying really hard already. I'm like, everybody's already talking about 2024.
Let me read.
Trying to be really careful.
I know.
This pleases me greatly, Britton. I love that book so much. That was one of my initial, like, Red Rising and Lies of Locke Lamora were two of my original, like, first loves in the epic fantasy genre after Malazan. Sci-fi fantasy. I will reiterate that really quickly before someone gets mad at me for including Red Rising in fantasy. That's one of the things, that's the only reason I'm a little worried about the end of LPQ, but I love the story so much at this point that I'm willing to trust. We'll see how it goes. Derry, I knew exactly who you were going to say before you ever said a word, but it's true. I don't understand the Molly hate personally, and I also think Kettrican is amazing. She's an amazing character.
I'm rereading Robin Hood in 2025.
Ooh, like the whole thing?
The whole thing.
Wow, commitment.
That will be a reread too. So
that's exactly part of my issue, Lantern, is that I feel like a lot of authors make such a huge effort to have a strong female character that is like the only personality trait of this character. They are, and sometimes that translates to petulant brat. Not always, because to me, strong includes a lot of different facets. And I think that's what gets lost a lot of times in this, like, urge to quick jump on this trend of like, oh, here, let's have a, strong female character. And usually I'm just like, I end up not liking her at all. So, yeah. So it's anyways,
yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I lost my thought, so I'm okay.
Sorry. I am nervous about trying China Mieville, but I've heard so many good things that I'm definitely interested in trying at some point. I think Perdido Street Station is the one that everybody says to start with. Maybe.
That's what I heard too. I haven't read it.
I know Jimmy's a big fan, so yeah. But yeah. Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining me this evening.
Absolutely.
This was super fun.
Yeah, we lost track of time, and that was okay.
That was the Minnesota goodbye. We're like, we're going to close it out 30 minutes later.
I wonder how many people we lost. Like, oh my God, will they stop shut?
No, actually, it stayed pretty much the same through the whole thing. So everybody in the chat, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. I love doing these very relaxed book chats, and it's fun to just chuck the script out the window and talk. And Chris, I want to say too, just huge best wishes for you as you're working on your book. I know it's a labor of love, and I know it's going to be awesome, and I'm very excited to get a chance to see it when it's all done, or before maybe.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Anybody, I'm definitely open to other readers beside the group. Probably when I get a grasp of where I want to correct things, I want to correct things, change, and then definitely start zipping it out there.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm very excited for you. I think it's going to be awesome. It's so surreal when you've been working on it for so long to see it finally like done. It's a weird feeling. So I'm excited for you.
Yeah. And I'm excited for your release. I mean, and it's going to be fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very excited. I'm chatting with, I'm doing an interview with Kay on Kay's Hidden Shelf tomorrow night, and I finally got there's no gray band on.
I was going to say there's no.
So this is.
I'm like, why do you get that? You're the author. Why are you getting?
I don't know. They don't want me selling my own book or something. I don't know. But yeah, this is the Amazon proof, and this is the Ingram Spark proof, and you can see it's interesting to see the printing differences when you get them both. So this one's definitely more pop on the reds, but it's kind of wild to see it real. It's weird. So
it's gonna sell. It's gonna do well.
I hope so.
Hitting me. Do you feel like it's like as if you never put out a book yet? Like, does it feel like you didn't put out or any of your earlier work?
This one definitely has a completely different feel because I've never. I mean, when I was writing when I was much younger, there was a lot of when's the next book coming out? Because I did a chapter book series when I was very young. But there was no internet community at that point that I was involved in. So it was all word of mouth, and I would just write the book and then some people would buy it off of my website, and then we'd go to conferences and I would sell it. And so it was much less immediate, I think. And so having the online community and having to learn a completely different way of marketing myself and new resources and all of the new things that I have access to. And it's my first epic fantasy. So it's definitely a new feeling, and it's a little surreal, and it's a lot of learning curve. I'm doing my best.
You're not going to throw them all at us at 1 year, are you?
No, it was funny because somebody asked me the other day, so what's going to happen in Queen's Wolf? And I'm like, I kind of know, kind of, sort of. I'll find out this next year. Yep. Yeah, it's discovering it. And I obviously have like the big beats and stuff, but just overall, like, how do we get there? I don't know. We'll find out. So, all right. Well, chat, thank you so much. You guys were amazing as always. I love you all. I'm so glad that you got to come and hang out with us this evening. Chris, thank you so much for spending your evening with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Very humbled to have you here. Thanks, guys, for showing up.
Sounds good. Have some great 5-star reads and a great weekend coming up, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
The awkward goodbye.